Hello, everyone. I'm going to give some time for everyone to log in while I go ahead and start sending out the notifications, making sure remind everyone that we are on right now. Hello, Minister Marie. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much, Miss Wanda, for joining us. If you are coming on and I didn't say hello or welcome, go ahead and just put in the comments your name so that I could see you. See who else? Who else? Let me do a quick reminder. And if you are on, go ahead and share. Go ahead and send the link out so that everyone can know. Hello, Mr. Harden. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much, Prophetess Cobbs, for being here. Prophetess Sabrina, thank you for joining us. I'm praying that the Lord will send me a team so that I will not have to do this. Um, we can just jump in and do and do what the Lord is calling us to do in this season. And if you can, like I said, please share. Please tag someone. Please send out a reminder because there's so much that we are going to talk about tonight. So, how have this series been helping you? In the comment, just let me know, how is this um, really helping you? How is um, this series helping you understand yourself, helping you understand everything that's going on? Thank you so much for joining us today, Miss Ann. Thank you, Miss Yolanda, for being in. You all are amazing. Thank you for being on. And we have Pastor Brandon here.
God bless.
Okay, we can make it like that. Block the face with the. So I'll give you a moment for you to just go ahead and say hello to everyone who's watching. There may be someone new coming on, so tell us a little bit about yourself
Hey,
so we can
hello.
jump into it.
Okay, good deal. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Brandon from God's Temple Holiness Church in Yanceyville, North Carolina. Want to give a shout out to all my church members, my family, my friends, my enemies, all of you all. It's an honor to be back once again to speak on this wonderful series of guarding your heart. Has been a blessing unto me. So you know what I always say, let's go.
Let's go. And so this week we're going to talk about the power of understanding your now so you
Okay.
can step into your next. And I think so many people, hi, Apostle Sharon, thank you for joining. Now in this season, a lot of people down now is a little bit uneasy. Down now is a little bit unstable. And, God may be, is calling us to a new level. But in this new level, the now is a little shaky. So let's start off by first, Pastor Brandon, talking about what it means when we talk about the now.
The now is really the best way of understanding is what you're in at the moment. Your now may not be necessarily, let me rephrase this, not necessarily something to where it's just a moment. Your now could have been spreaded over a vast number of years. There are some people
Mm-hmm.
now that they have been suffering with a trauma or some type of disposition, and it's been going on for a constant for a long period of time, for years. So, because of how this has been a traumatic experience for you for years, you're considering you've been stuck in that position. That is your now.
Right. And so when we are talking about being stuck in that position, many times when we are in a stuck place, when we are in a place where we feel like we can't move any further, we can't move out. Why is it important not to let your now determine your next?
That is very important because if you're always concentrating on your now to the point that it cripples you for your future, you got to realize
Mm,
that your now is always um, it's in a tug of war between your
mhm.
past and your future. And
Okay.
if you continue to abide so much in your now and not focus on where you're going, your now is just going to continue to move on with you. It's not that you're actually moving forward, it's like you're spinning tires in the same place. And you may
Hmm.
see the momentum, you may hear the momentum, but you're not moving nowhere. It's just you've been stuck and you're throwing mud, you're getting frustrated. So it is important that you understand that moving forward is key. It really is, because if you don't move forward, like I said, you're just gonna keep spinning tires. You're just like that little hamster in the wheel. You're just moving, but you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
Right. And it's so important that we understand and we let everyone know. I think, with us doing this series and us making sure that we are tapping into every part of guarding your heart, every part of what's going on. And then, the power of now, because I know there's so many people that feel stuck. There's so many people that's trying to understand what's my next level? What's my purpose? God, what have you called me to do in this season? And that now has become almost suffocating.
Yes.
So what is the steps to recognize, first of all, why you feel like you are suffocating and why it's important to move forward?
You actually just stated the first step. The first step is acknowledgement. You have to
Mhm.
acknowledge that you are stuck. You have to acknowledge that you're in a place that you don't feel as though you can move. The Bible says over and over in so many ways that you must confess. Confession
Mhm.
is something that is very vital, because once you confess, it allows you to understand that you have acknowledged the situation. Um, and when you're acknowledging things, it's more easier to a certain extent to get the answer, because
Mhm.
you're always trying to cover up, or you're always trying to mask it. If you're always trying to, put on the front that all is well, everything is good, then you're not exposing the issue. And if
Right.
you never expose the problem, how can you intend on getting an answer? And the enemy works, and we must understand that we're working against an enemy, not only with what we consider Satan, but even in our flesh. That is an enemy as well, because as long as they can keep you silent, as long as they can keep you to a place to where you are not acknowledging or speaking or calling out what's going on, you can never move from that place. Never
Right.
move from that place. You have to acknowledge. If you go to any the basis of any AA meeting, they're going to tell you, you first have to acknowledge that you have a problem.
Right.
And as many Christians as we have taught in church, we try to dance over things. We try to say, well, by faith, you got to fake it till you make it. But that has become a problem, because a lot of us have been faking
Oh, come on.
so long that we have yet made it, because we haven't took the time to say, hey, I have an issue. Hey, I have a problem. Hey, God, I need you. But what we're doing, we have covered it up with this wonderful bowl of praise and worship. And we do all the formalities,
Mhm.
but we
Mhm.
won't be true about what's really helping, what's hindering us, what's putting us in this bondage, what's putting us in this concession of where we're not able to really break free. So
Mhm.
acknowledgement is the first thing that has to be done.
Right. And I love how you broke that down, because many of us have been faking it till we make it. And in that fake, we have bought the story. We have bought the story that we have allow people to believe is true about us. And so we've been in it so long, and we've been doing it for so long, that now, we don't even know what's real and what's not, who
Yes.
we are and what people think about us, because we have allowed ourselves to move in that brokenness for so long. We have allowed ourselves to move in that level of dysfunction because we never understood the importance of acknowledging what's going on, acknowledging, the pain, acknowledging, and as I tell you guys every week, I don't know about you, Pastor Brandon, but whatever the topic is going to be, I have to go through it the week before it's time for me to come on here to tell you that God is able. And so this week I had to acknowledge some things that I didn't even realize I was going through until the moment that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
God, like, put his finger on it, like, this is what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But because the enemy had me in a place where I automatically fell back into my default,
Mm-hmm.
my default of covering it up, my default of not pushing forward, my default of worrying about what everybody else think and what everybody else is going to say. So, but I had to then acknowledge, God, forgive me,
Yeah.
because I am dealing with this, that, and the other. Forgive me because I stepped back into doing what you told me not to do. Forgive me because now I see that my brokenness, that I had a trigger, a trauma trigger that came, that caused me to go back into that one place that I said I would never go back into. And and it was in me acknowledging it that I didn't even have time to go into the woe is me. I didn't have time to go into the normal self depression that will creep up without me knowing it. I didn't go into the feeling, the feelings of shame and rejection, because I acknowledged it fast. And when I acknowledged it, it gave me a door to step into what God has already called me, what God is showing me, what I need to do. And so, Pastor Brandon, when we talk about understanding the now that we have acknowledged it, and we have to let and I have to say that it's not easy. Sometimes it's not easy to acknowledge the thing that you are hiding behind your back, the thing that you don't want anybody to see, the thing that you have covered up and put a beautiful a picture in front of. It's hard to now acknowledge that all that beautiful stuff that I have before you is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
I am a mess. I am tore up.
Mm-hmm.
But God, I'm going to come to you. And that's what I love about God, that he has made a way that we can go to him. We don't have to go to the priest for the priest to go talk to God for us. We don't have to go to people and expose the things that we are dealing with, because it's hard enough that we are battling within ourselves. But he has opened up a place where we can now get to him and tell him, this is me. This is my brokenness. This is my mess that I'm dealing with. This is how I feel. These are the things that I'm still addicted to. These are the things that I'm still, falling into. And so, Pastor Brandon, let's first explain the importance of understanding that God loves you regardless of your situation.
The Bible says that he is married. Let me go here to the backslider. That means that you have acknowledged him, you accept him. You're over into the family of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, it goes number two is that if you look at who God ministered to, Jesus ministered to, it wasn't just everybody that had it together.
Mm-hmm.
The woman at the well, she had several husbands.
Right. Come on.
The woman that was about to be stoned was because she was caught in adultery.
Mm-hmm.
The one with the issue of blood, she had issues going on. Not only was the fact, it wasn't the fact that she had any sexual immorality, it was the fact that she was dealing with depression, she was dealing with pain, broken heartedness. I mean, everyone that he ministered to had an issue.
Right.
Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you go further, everyone that he used had an issue.
Come on. That's
David
true.
was a murderer. He slept with somebody else's wife. Moses had a drink. You have a list of people. I can't go through all the list, but you're in good company,
Come
because
on.
the reason for this is because God uses a mess in order to tell a story, to open people's eyes. Like I
Right.
told you one time before, that when he went to open the blind man's eyes, he spit on dirt and made it mud. Mud is usually a mess. but he put it on the person's eyes, they were able to see. So God loves you even in the midst of your mess, because who you are is not what you're in.
Mm-hmm.
The lifestyle that you may have chosen is always a choice. And sometimes things happen that forces in a path that we know it is not right. But God loves you enough to say, if you just come to me, come to
Mm-hmm.
me as you are. This has nothing to do with your clothing, but come to me as you are, broken, messed up, confused, angry, enraged, in hurt, in pain, the whole 9 yards. God love will penetrate. He said, for his love and kindness that I have drawn thee. And those are the ones that he wants the most, because they are sincere in what they are. They know what it means, and they can appreciate when someone loves them unconditionally. Yeah. God is a God of love. His love is unconditional,
Unconditional.
meaning no matter what kind of condition you in, it doesn't even matter. He
Right.
loves you. All he wants you to do is accept his love.
Mm-hmm.
Because even us that seem like we may have it all together, we're a jacked up mess.
Come on, tell the truth.
We are examples of unconditional and endless love. We
Mm-hmm.
are an example of God's patience, mercy, long suffering.
It's
Because
grace. Come on.
listen, dealing with this person here, you have to have patience and long suffering and endless love. So you're in good company. We're sitting here and we're trying to minister to you, but we're coming from a place of vulnerability. We're coming from a place of humanity. We're coming from a place of divinity at the same time, because we understand that everything that you're facing, everything that you're going through, everything
Mm-hmm.
that you're in, every mistake that you've made, every hang up, every hung up, all of these things are for a purpose. You may not understand it, but God allows some things to come upon you, or allow
Right.
things to happen to teach
Mm-hmm.
you. But even in that, even the stuff that you allow to come upon you, God said it's okay. If you wasn't a mess, why would he have the clause of asking for forgiveness in the
Come on.
why would he have the clause of asking for repentance? He would have never put that in there if he knew that, I'm done with you. Because one thing I learned about God, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Come
A
on.
man may say I'm trash, but I'm God's treasure.
That's right.
So understand that you're God's treasure. Man may say you're trash, but trust
Oh
me, you're
my
God's treasure. Beloved, you're God's treasure.
God. Right. And I was watching a woman of God, and she was on this week, Apostle, and she was speaking about Lot and his wife. And she was telling, she was talking about how could it be, and the way that she brought it up, I would have never thought, but she said, could it be that Lot's wife looked back because she didn't understand, why God are you pulling me out?
Mm-hmm.
Because I lived in Sodom and Gomorrah. I was probably doing some of the things that most of the people in there did. And
Mm-hmm.
why are you destroying this city, but you allowing me to get free? And how many of us, God has brought us out of brokenness, brought us out of things, but instead of us running to the hills that He told us to run to, we look back at the mess. We look back at, as she said, we went down memory lane saying, oh my God, what about when I did this, or when this person, or when that person? Because many times, Pastor Brandon, we find ourselves stuck because we are still walking down memory lanes, and we're still and some of us have not even, we don't even look back. We've already turned around and we're walking backwards towards our destiny, so that we can look at the past things and try to remember the past things, and we're not moving in the pace that God is telling us, because we're trying to figure out what happened. And see, I don't know about you, but there's been times where I'll walk past somebody and the smell of that cologne would take me back to a moment. That smell of what they have, what they had on, or what they saw, took me back to a moment
Mm-hmm.
of,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that, because the scent that was associated with the memory God took me back to a place that if you're not careful, you will find yourself now stuck in that past. You will find yourself like Lot's wife, constantly looking back to see what about everyone else? Why are you choosing me when I'm a wretched undone? Why are you choosing me when I'm adulterer? Why are you choosing me when I am struggling with my own self? Why did you choose me? But yet you're killing everything else behind me. But if we're not careful, we will allow our now to be our past.
Yes. Yes.
And we will constantly, and so we can never step into the next because we're not fully in the now. And so, Pastor Brandon, let's talk about before we can step into our next, we have to now be fully in our now, which means we have to take our eyes off of the past.
Yes. So we start off saying that you have to acknowledge it. The next thing is you have to learn to embrace it. Because if you don't learn to embrace where you are, you can never embrace where you're going. That means you have to embrace every flaw that you feel is about you, every mistake you've made, everything that you've done. Because until you really embrace everything that you have done and what has happened to you, then you will never be able to be free from it. Um, it says it. Paul says it so well in Romans 7:23. He speaks about there's a war in my members, meaning there's a war in my flesh and my will. Just like you said, you can be somewhere and the temperature or the day is just right. You remember, oh, I remember when such and such this, and I would do this, this, and third, because there's going to always be a memory. But you have to remember, we have memorials for people that are dead. Memory, memorial. What's dead needs to be a memory and a memorial. It means you can't go back and resuscitate something that's been buried and dead. You need to leave it alone. Even in the Bible, they said that after at least 3 days, when someone dies, that the spirit has gone. There's no way to bring them back. So when something is dead in your life, don't try to go back 30 years, 3 years, or 3 years ago. Let it stay there, because if you don't and embrace, okay, I made this mistake, and what has happened is, if you don't learn to embrace it and learn to move from it, then you have to deal with condemnation. You have to deal with guilt. And the Bible says that there is now no condemnation to those that believe. You have to understand that the devil, your memory, everything will be a hindrance and a weight to you. That's why it said it so eloquently in the Bible that I put those things behind me. I pressed towards the mark. I counted not myself to have apprehended, but I put things behind me and I pressed towards the mark. You have to learn to put things behind you. Yes. Even the things that you make mistakes in on this day, even things you've said, thought, acted upon, it happened. You can't change it. Embrace it. Okay, I made a mistake. God help me to do better than what I was on yesterday. Help me do better than what I just did. Because if you don't learn to accept it and move from it, it's going to allow you to be in a place like the leper with his bed. He couldn't move until Jesus came. But a lot of us, Jesus has come and he asks you, do you want to be healed? But Lord, you don't understand. I'm a wretch undone. He's like, I died for all of that. I'm not asking you what you've done. I'm asking you, do you want to move? And when you learn to embrace, I've made a mistake, then when he comes and say, do you want to move? You say, yes. I've made a mistake. Yes, I'm ready to move. That's why it's important. The Bible says, choose you this day whom you're going to serve. Are you going to serve your memories?
Come on.
Or are you going to serve the freedom that's been being brought to you? You have to really learn to accept what you have done, accept the change, accept the challenges. Because if it's not a challenge, it's not going to change you.
Right.
Some of us run from challenges. Some of us run from things that are happening to us, and we want a quick fix. You can dance all day long in the church, but you still got to go home to that husband that's still not doing what he's supposed to do.
Right.
You're going home to a broken mess. But if you don't come in the church and say, God, look, I've got some mess going on, and if you don't move right now, this is see, here we go. This is what I've learned about worship. The Bible says you must worship him in spirit and in truth. truth, who is Jesus Christ. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't understand who truth is and embrace truth, then truth will never be able to set you free.
Come
In
on.
order to embrace truth, you have to first acknowledge that everything that's going on with you is not who you really are. It's not the truth. It's what
Mm-hmm.
the enemy has alluded, saying that this is who you are. You're never going to be this. You're never going to do anything. But true worship allows you to be vulnerable and open up and say, I am a wretch undone. Psalms 55 says that created me a right spirit and renew the right spirit in me and created me a new heart. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, you have to have a contrite heart, meaning that you understand that I'm a wretch undone, I'm broken, I'm messed up, but I'm humble enough to know that even in my brokenness, I
Mm-hmm.
still have a greater conqueror inside of me. But right
Right.
now, I'm in a shell of brokenness. So, God, I need you to break the shell off of me so I
Mm-hmm.
can come into my fullness of who I am. But if
Right.
you keep saying that, no, I'm good, this shell is comfortable, I'm used to this, woe is me, this has been my life. And, I've run across people in ministry in my life. And, it amazes me that some people have gotten so comfortable in dysfunction.
Come on.
They
Come
have
on.
normalized dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they can't function not unless there's dysfunction.
Dysfunction.
And the
Mm-hmm.
sad part about it is many of us have gotten to a place that's how we are in God. Like if things are going too good, we question it. This ain't right. This is too
Right.
good to be true. But then when all hell breaks loose, we're asking to be freed from it. So it's like, do you want to be free or do you want to keep dwelling in dysfunction? So you have to pick which one are you gonna serve, dysfunction or freedom.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I love about the man with that was at the pool of Bethesda.
Yes.
He didn't know that it was Jesus
Hmm. Right.
because he had been laying down for so long. He and you know, most of the ones who was there was paralyzed, lame, sick. So it's not like they went out into the city and heard a word that it was a Messiah. It was Jesus walking around healing, and so they were still laying on that in on the five porches. And listen to me, because the five porches is grace. That even though they was in a broken state, even though they was in a state of not being able to move and do what they wanted to do, yet God was still there. There was still grace. But what
Mhm.
I loved about it, that Jesus didn't ask him, "Do you have faith?"
Yes.
He just knew that you've been there too long.
Yeah.
You've been in this situation too long. So that means that whatever was in the man, the healing was already in him. He just needed someone to speak to the healing so that he could stand up and walk away. He needed somebody to speak to the healing. And so when Jesus said, he didn't say, I am the Messiah. I am Jesus the Christ. I am the one that walks around and heal the blind and cast out demons. He said, pick up your bed.
Hmm.
After you done gave me all the excuses of why you are not healed and you still in this broken place, now I'm telling you, pick up your bed of infirmity, pick up your bed of rejection, pick up your bed of depression, pick up your bed of unworthiness, pick up your bed of loneliness, and guess what? Move.
Move.
And when he and he didn't know when the Jews, when the Pharisees and the Sadducees asked him, who told you to take your bed up? They didn't even know that it was the man that had been laying there for 38 days. 38 years, all they saw was somebody on the Sabbath carrying a bed. And you don't understand, I got this rolled up under my arm, which means my affliction that I've been laying on for all this time is now rolled up and under my arm, that I can carry it and put it in wherever I need to, because I have been laying on it for so long, that to be able to carry it. And they asked him, well, who
Hmm.
told you to do this? And the man said, I don't know. I don't know, but I was tired of laying on that bed of affliction. I was tired of laying on that porch. I was tired of being with the other ones that are broken, because it's something about being with a bunch of broken people and a bunch of people who are in dysfunction, that you start to get a little comfortable. Because for 38 years he laid there, because they didn't say that how far the pool was. They didn't say that he could have just rolled down the steps and fell into the pool. It never said how close the pool was. But yet he said, no one was there to help me. No one was there to put me into the pool. No one was there. We had all these people, but someone will always step in before me. How many times have we given God excuses when he said, get up? Get up. Oh, I can't because, what are they going to say about me if I step into my fullness? I hear you, Lord. What are they going to say about me when I make a decision that this is what God has called me to do? But yet I'm worried about people. I'm worried about what they're going to say. I'm going down. Now I'm back into that dysfunction because dysfunction is telling me that this person is going to continue to talk about you, that they're going to never be behind you, supporting you, that you're going to always be broken. And so what the man did was he said, listen, if you said it, according to your word, I don't know who you are, but I could hear the authority that's in your voice that just told me to get up. So I may not have enough faith within myself to do it by myself, but I have enough faith in the authority in your voice that I'm going to stand up, even though I don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. I'm going to still stand up because there was an authority that was in the voice that spoke to the brokenness in the man. Mm-hmm. It didn't speak to the natural man. It spoke to his spirit man saying, you've already been healed. Now get up and walk. And could you imagine not being able to walk for 38 years? And then you stand up with a strength like no other. Because technically, when you got up after not being able to walk for 38 years, then you're not going to be able to move because your muscles is not the way that it's not going to be moving the way it's supposed to. Your bones are not aligned. You don't have enough strength. But what I'm learning is all I need is one word from God. And everything that was weak became strong. Everything that was out of alignment fell into alignment because now I understood I'm going to embrace, because you said in 2 Corinthians that all things, that when I become a creature, that all old things are passed away and become all things become new. So I have new muscles, I have new bones, I have new purpose, I have new direction, I have newness. And so he spoke to that newness. And I love how when he stepped out, he embraced. I'm just going to embrace what you said. I'm just going to trust you. I don't know what's going to happen when I roll this bed up and stick it under my arm. But I do know that I would no longer be in this place because it had to be a period of time that he got sick and tired of being sick and tired. So what are you that are watching? What is the thing that's keeping you bound? Have you not gotten to a place where you are sick and tired of being lonely, being broken, being bitter? And so, Pastor Brandon, when we talk about moving in God and understanding who God is, when we talk about not only acknowledging it, not only embracing it, but what do we do when we have acknowledged our brokenness? We have acknowledged our situation, and we have embraced the fact, God, that I'm nothing without you. I can't do this by myself. If you don't speak a word to me to help my bones to heal, if you don't speak words to me to give me strength to step out on what you're telling me, then I won't be able to do it. What is the next step?
The next step is after acknowledging, after embracing it, you need to release it.
Come on.
You have to release it. Mm-hmm. And the only way you're going to release it, you got to first forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive what happened to you. Forgive whoever did it to you. And then ask God to forgive everything. Because that's the only way you're going to release yourself. Sometimes we're waiting on God to pull us out of something. But God is not going to pull you out of something if you're not properly ready to embrace it fully. You have to learn to release some things off of you so he can know. Not saying that he doesn't know everything, because he knows everything. Right. But some things, it's like a toddler. You do not give a toddler a full-blown gun and expect them to know what to do with it. It comes through a process of maturity. God is not going to force himself on you. He's not going to force freedom on you. But you have to make the intelligent decision to say, this is what I want. So you have to release everything that's going on with you, whatever happened to you. Granted, I know sometimes it is much easier said than done, because all of us have that little girl, all the ladies have that little girl, all of us men have the little boy that has been going through hell and high water from birth to now.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, even in the midst of our grown adult age, that little person comes out.
Mm-hmm. Throw a
Let's be
hole
real
in
about
that.
it. Yeah. You want that attention. And then you find attention in the wrong way. You want
Mm,
that to be loved, and you're looking for love in the wrong place. It's that little person inside of you
come on.
that now that you're acknowledging that they are there, you embracing that they're there. Now help them to come warm with you so you can release both of you all as one into your future. And now I'm
Right.
saying this from a place of what I had to learn and what I am still learning, because there are a
Mm,
lot of things that has happened to me when I was younger to now that I am 37 years old. 37 years old, that is still that little boy in me that wants to have that validation from a
mm,
father, or have that validation from certain people, or have that attention and that embrace and all of that. But I had to learn to be like David. When I was a child, I spake as a child.
come on.
But now that I am a man, I put away childish things, meaning understanding that little boy is going to need that. So I need to embrace and acknowledge him. That's his hurt. That's his issue. That's what's going on with me. So now that I understand that, things are not going to trigger me like it used to.
Come
I'm not
on.
going to go looking for things that's going to try to be a substitute for things that I know is not going to last long. So once I realize that, I can release that anger, that pain, that disappointment, all of those things happen, and now I can walk in my full freedom of knowing where I'm going. You know,
Mm-hmm.
too many of us have held on to a lot of things from our past. Too many things we have held on from things that has happened to us even in today. But the truth of the matter is, when tomorrow comes, you can't fix what happened today. Can't fix what happened in the past. So the best thing is acknowledge it, embrace it, and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Families are in such disarray because they're holding on to generational anger and rage and things that has happened that it had nothing to do with this generation.
Mm-hmm.
Your great greatness of grandmas had an issue with somebody on somebody else's family, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
passed down through generations. And you don't even know why you have anger, or the family is even feuding. Let that go, because the Bible says that if you don't forgive your brother or sister, then when you ask for forgiveness, he won't do it. And we
Mm-hmm.
need God's grace. We need his forgiveness, because without that, we're not going to make it. Without that, we're not going to know what freedom is. Without that, we cannot continue to move forward in our mind, our heart, our spirit, because we are harboring things that are not like God. And a lot of us are moving. Yeah, I got to go here. A lot of us are moving in ministry and bleeding on people.
My God.
We're moving in ministry and still have bitterness in our heart.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving in ministry and saying that God is saying some things to somebody, but it's really because he's saying it to you. But you
Mm.
think that because it's on somebody else. No, some things, what I've learned about ministry, God gonna deal with you first before he
Right.
deals with somebody else.
Right.
And so you can try to ricochet all you want, but one thing about when you ricochet something, it's gonna fly off and hit something else. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it'll come back and hit you. So in order to have a healthy ministry, and I'm not just talking behind the pulpit, every day you live, you'll live in a ministry. Your life is a pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Your life is a pulpit.
Come
And
on.
pulpit does, and understand what a pulpit is, you're pulling people out of the pit. So you have to be
Mm-hmm.
mindful of how you're going along. So cleanse yourself, release yourself. There's an old song that I'm about to tell myself. It's an old song by In Vogue. There's an R&B group that says, "Free your mind, and the rest will follow." So a lot of those old R&B songs, they had truth in it. And then another one, Barry White said, "You got to practice what you preach."
Mm.
You can't preach forgiveness and you ain't got it. You
Right.
can't preach freedom if you don't know what freedom is.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to learn to release it. Release all that negativity, man. It's killing you. You looking old and distraught and hair falling out, and you waiting for the other person to die, and you holding all this mess, and it's killing you. But Jesus said, "I come to give you life,
Right.
and life more abundantly."
More abundantly.
The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but
Hmm.
I come that you may have life. So why are you allowing yourself to commit suicide?
Come on.
Because you hold on to stuff that doesn't even matter. The unnecessary isn't necessary.
Mm.
It's not. Let it go.
Hmm.
When you learn to let it go, you will really start to feel yourself coming to who they are. The prodigal son said, "When I came to myself."
Came to myself. Come on.
When you learn to release some things, you can come to yourself. He was in the pig pen eating slop. He said, "No,
Mm.
no, wait a minute. No. Mm-mm. I got to go back to my father's house.
Right.
I
Even
messed
the
up." Yeah. He came to himself. So when you learn to let go of yourself, if you want to find out who you are, let go, and then you can come to yourself.
hmm hmm You know, as you was talking, this week the Lord was telling me, we have to stop allowing the voice of our trauma, the voice of our pain, to speak louder than the voice of God.
Yes.
We are walking around listening to the brokenness of our life,
Hmm.
listen, my mama was this way, my grandma was this way, so I'm going to be this way. That's the voice of trauma. Oh, well, I've been dealing with this, that, and the other. Voice of trauma, voice of brokenness,
Hmm.
and one thing the Lord was telling me, he said, listen, it was my voice that saved your life in Somalia. And it was my voice that saved your soul on Calvary.
Yes.
So don't allow the voice of the enemy to become louder than my voice.
Hmm.
Don't allow your ears to be tuned to the frequency of the brokenness, the frequency of the lack, the frequency of the disappointment, the rejection, the trauma. Because as long as your ears are now tuned to that, you will never be able to walk fully in what I'm calling you. Because even though we understand that a dog whistle has been formed so that a dog could hear it, but it's because the frequency of the whistle was made just for the dog's ears. And so we have to be the same way. What frequency are we able to pick up so clearly that now it agitates us and irritates us? What voice are we allowing ourselves to tune into that now we are still broken? Now we are, well, I know God has called me, but God knows my heart because I done fell back in the same dysfunction. Because and I'm not talking like I haven't dealt with it, because there was a time where I had to ask somebody like, wait, when is the shoe gonna drop? Because there's no way for me to be this happy. Why am I so happy? That means something about to happen. Somebody's about to break my heart. Some foolishness is about to come up, because now I'm looking, because I'm so used to dysfunction. I was so used to always trying to pull myself out of something, and deal with it. But yet when I realized, wait a minute, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. So I'm not going to let the world take it away. And the world may be me. That's what we have to understand. We're so busy looking out at other people, trying to see who gonna hurt us and who gonna cause us to do this and who's gonna do that. But yet we find ourselves that sometimes it's us. We have pulled ourselves into the brokenness. We are the ones that's pointing the finger at ourselves. We are the ones that are listening to the voice of the things that happen. And when I went to therapy, I told the lady, listen, I don't want to talk to the inner woman. I don't want to talk to the inner child. I don't want to talk to the young adult. I don't want to deal with them because they're victims. And I don't deal with a victim. I don't want to mess with a victim. And she said, but LaTorsha, is you. And I'm like, yeah, it might be me, but I don't even want to deal with it. I'm just going to do like I normally do. I'm going to now avoid it. Because as long as I avoid it, I don't have to acknowledge it. As long as I don't say it, I don't have to, it doesn't become real. And many of us have a tendency that we are now walking around in avoidance. I'm going to avoid the broken part of me. I'm going to avoid the part of me that is crying out for help and love. I'm going to avoid that part because I've been walking in this dysfunction for so long. I've been in this brokenness for so long. And, and today we have to understand that our next dimension of God, our next calling, our next thing that God is going to do depends on our now. Depending on us standing flat-footed now. It's depending on us calling those things that be not as though they were now. It's us being able to say, God, I'm broken. I'm in a place now that I'm struggling. I'm in a place that I don't want to be here anymore. God, I'm in this place. Can you please just come see about me? Can you please just come help me? Because what we do is we have all this stuff that we have been carrying around. And it's something, if you have been on a trip and you never unpack your bags, then you always have bags piled up. That when you really need something, you don't have any more room because your bags have never been unpacked. Your stuff has never been put back into its proper places. Mm-hmm. And now you're moving, asking God, can you fix it? He said, open up the suitcase.
Yeah.
Open up the thing that you have packed in, because until you allow me to step into it, until you allow me to be the one to show you, okay, I know you like these jeans, but truly these jeans don't fit you anymore. And it's time for you to get another pair. So I want you to release that to somebody else that can use it. But when letting this go, this is what I'm going to give you. And many of us hold on to the brokenness because this is who I am. And I'm just going to be transparent. When I went to the therapist, I said, I want to release it. Because I'm not sure of the woman who's going to be the one that's healed. I'm not sure if I'm going to be bipolar. I'm not sure if I have multiple personalities. I'm not sure of who this new woman is going to be when I heal this broken woman. Mm-hmm. And I was afraid. Mm-hmm. I was afraid because all I knew was brokenness. All I knew was pain. All I knew, but I knew that I had enough strength to put on the face and to make up this strong woman, because there's something about having self-confidence, but having low self-esteem. And so because I had self-confidence, my confidence was in my job. My confidence is in what I was doing. So the military had trained me on how to do my job. So I could walk into any room and demand respect when I didn't even have respect for myself. I would walk into any room and they would seek after me so that I could help them with any problem, any situation, but yet I was still broken. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I was worthy enough. And I could walk in the room and have a standing ovation when I left out the room, but then I go in my car and I'm crying because I'm afraid that somebody's going to realize that I'm really not as good as they think I am. I'm really not that person. But when I realize that I am who God has called me to be, even in my brokenness, even if I have to come with a limp, God has shown me, listen, baby, I'm here for you. You don't have to worry about being that broken woman. You don't have to worry about if you're going to lose your mind, because your mind is wrapped up in me. I have called you for such a time as this. And the reason you did not lose your mind is because I needed you and I had a purpose for you. But if we don't know how to release that thing and say, God, I can barely make it day by day. Mm-hmm. And guess what? God said, well, okay, baby, just give me minute by minute. Give me hour by hour. Yeah. Because before long, you're not going to have to worry about making it day by day. Because if you're with me minute by minute and you're with me hour by hour, then when you step into your days, you're going to still be with me in the days. So you're not going to even look and wonder and worry about what's going on, because you have found yourself in my presence. You have found yourself in a relationship with me. You have found yourself divorcing the brokenness, divorcing the things that's going on. And Pastor Brandon, when we are talking about moving in God and understanding our now, we also have to not be afraid of the next.
Mhm.
So why is it that in our now we have to become so trusting in God that we are not afraid to step into the next?
Because God is next. God is next. God is not someone that just sits around chilling, just okay, it is what it is. God
Mm-hmm.
is forever moving. He's omnipresent. I mean, he's everywhere. He's in your future when you was in your past.
Jesus,
He
come
was
on.
in your present when you're in your future. So
Mm,
if you want to, if you it's imperative that you move to your next because God is there waiting for you.
my God.
It's not so much that you're waiting on him, he's waiting for you. You know, there's an old song that used to be sung in church during the benediction, right before the benediction. It used to say, "Come to Jesus, come to
Mm-hmm.
come to Jesus right now." And then they will go on and say, "He is able to save you. He can save you. He can heal you." You
Mm-hmm.
know, and so we have to realize that God is waiting on us to move to our next, because if we don't ever move, how is He gonna move? Not saying that He can't. He can do whatever he wants to do when he wants to do it, with or without you. But he preferred to do it with you.
With you, right?
So we have to learn to move to get to where God is. If Peter had never stepped out of the boat to move towards Jesus, when he was started sinking, Jesus came towards him.
Mm-hmm.
So God is not concerned how fast you get to the finish line, just as long as you get off the starting line.
My God, come on.
So quick, we got to get in a hurry to get to the end of the thing. But the thing is, you ain't even moved from the beginning. You
Jesus.
have to start moving.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to realize you are hitting so many good points about how a lot of us we were scared to move into the whole person, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't know what that looks like.
Right.
For so long, I was like that. And the thing was, I was toxic and
Mm,
didn't realize it.
come on. Well,
I was toxic and didn't realize it, because I would get in relationships, and because of my own trauma and triggers, they
mm,
would try to love me or help me, but I would push away. Everything would be good, and I get scared. And then I will self sabotage the relationship. And then I get mad because, well, why you do this to me? People only react to your actions.
mm,
And a lot of us are moving in ministry and we're toxic.
Jesus.
We're toxic. Let's be real. You're toxic because you can't preach that God gonna heal you, but
Jesus.
then have doubt about if He can heal you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You gotta have enough faith. If you got that much faith for somebody else, have that faith for yourself. And that's
Right.
something I had to learn. You know, you have to be at a place that you stop being okay with just going through the same cycles. And somebody will say, well, this is all I know. I don't want to keep going through these cycles. I don't, well, how do I get out of these cycles? Let it go. Let God handle it. Learn to trust Him all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's easier said than done, because a lot of times we go through things and we've been going through it so long in our lives that we feel like this is all there's to it. But
Mm-hmm.
you need to start praying and seeing what spirit is lurking through the generations or in your family that's causing you to keep going through these same cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes, like the man that was blind, and the disciples asked, well, Jesus, who sinned?
God. Come on.
Who
Come
sinned the reason this man is blind? And Jesus said it was not his mother nor his father.
on. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not because of what you did, the reason you're going through these cycles. You got to figure out what's been attached
Mm.
that's causing you to go through these cycles. So, yeah, moving to our next is imperative. We have to move to our next, because when you come to God, everything that's not like God is going to move away from you.
Right.
That's why a lot of us, when we start moving forward, we get scared because people start dropping, people start walking away, people start acting different. They're not acting different. You're just finally seeing how they really are.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real. The one thing I've learned about people is three different events. People gonna show you who they are:
Mm-hmm.
family reunion, a funeral, and a wedding. You
Come
will
on.
always see who they are. And when you move towards God, the elevation gets higher, which
Mm-hmm.
means everything that's on you can't breathe in certain elevations.
Come on.
But God has equipped you that as you moving forward and going higher, you find yourself you being able to breathe. It seems like you can't, but you still find yourself being able to have some type of oxygen. And everything
Mm-hmm.
attached to you is going to fall off. So don't be mad when people start walking away and talking about you and you act like you brand new. I am brand new. I'm in Christ. This is a new day. I don't supposed to be wearing what I had on yesterday. No, I am
Yes.
brand new. What are you saying to me? Thank you for understanding and saying that. So now that you see that, you gonna come with me, or you gonna walk away. You gonna walk away. Okay, peace. Because behold, all things are new. That means
All.
my friends gonna be new, my family gonna be new, the people I deal with gonna be new. All things are new. And it's not that I love you less. I actually love you more because now I have Christ in me, so I can love you and understand where you are at, and understand that in order for me to help you to get where you need to be, I got to keep.
My God. And he froze. But as Pastor Brandon was talking,
So
when we talk
that's
about
where it is. We have to learn to just move to the next. God is waiting.
next. He done froze again. But and I just talk until you come back. One of the things that I am learning that we have to really understand who we are in God. And Pastor Brandon said something that sometimes when you go up to the next level, it feels like you're suffocating. It feels like you can't catch your breath. But I'm reminded of Jesus on the cross that enable for him to be able to speak the seven last sayings, he had to push himself up. He had to use his legs, even though the pain was in his feet because he was nailed to the cross. But enable for him to get enough air in his lungs to be able to say the things that he needed to say, guess what? He had to push himself up. And many of us, because we are in this season right now, because we are in this, we're looking at what we are going through, but because God was able to push himself up to say the things that he needed to say, to even say it is finished, he had to go through some pain. He had to go through some difficult times. But many of us, our now may not be easy. Our now may be uncomfortable. Our now may be where we don't even want to be a part of it. But we're going to have to stand up in
Yes.
our situation. We're going to stand up in our pain. We're going to have to stand up and say, Lord, I know there's greater than this. I know that there's more than this. Sometimes we have to stand up because we've been laying so long on our bed of affliction that we have to stand up so that we can get the momentum that we need to move forward. I've never seen anybody run from laying down. I've never seen anybody move and walk from laying down. So you're going to have to be just as Jesus. He could have just hung there and just died without saying anything. But he said, no, I have to say it. I have to push myself in this pain because there's some things that I have to leave with them before I die on this cross. There's some things that I have to solidify before I die on this cross. And because of that, now in my pain, I'm going to push up so I can get enough breath in my lungs. And that's what I'm saying to many of you tonight. You're going to have to stand up. You're going to have to push up to get the breath in your lungs so that you can speak those things that be not as though they are. You can now have a voice to say the things that God is calling you to say in this season. But if you're not careful, you will allow yourself to now suffocate and die because you refuse to stand up so that you can breathe better. You refuse to stand up so you can take a step. You refuse to get up out of that bed because you may not start off in a sprint.
Yeah.
You may have to take a step. And you may have to rest a while and then take another step. But guess what? You're going to get to a place that you're going to become strong enough that your steps are going to now turn from walking to a trot, to a full-on sprint, because God is going to strengthen you. Because with everything that God do, there's going to always be stages. There's going to always be levels. There's going to always be things. And even in the levels, you're going to still may have a feeling of wanting to get into the bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I dealt with my depression, that I was okay. And I would lay there and cry, and didn't want to get up. I didn't want to take a bath. I didn't want to put clothes on. But if my phone rang, I would grab enough strength to answer the phone to hear about somebody else's problem. And yet I got tears running down my eyes. And I'm listening to that problem. And it says, well, sis, can you pray for me? Can we touch and agree? And I found enough strength within me to run boldly into the throne room and snatch everything back that the enemy tried to take from them. I was strong enough to now pit them on my back and run in. But then as soon as we said amen, I was no longer strong enough to get out of the bed. I was no longer strong enough to brush my own teeth. I was not strong enough to do anything else. But I knew, God, if you did it for them, I know you can do it for me. So what voice am I listening to that tell me to stay in this bed? What voice am I listening to that's telling me I'm still broken? What voice am I listening to that's stronger than your voice? And sometimes you're going to have to get to a place where you ask God, God, put filters upon my ears, that all I hear is your voice.
Yeah.
I hear nothing else, because sometimes in our mind that we have echoed the sound of the voices for so many years that it's become so natural for us. But when we get to a place in God, there's more that you're calling of me in this season. There's more that you have upon my name. There's more. There's a reason why you snatched me out of that bed. There's a reason that you snatched me out of losing my mind. There's a reason that you snatched me from the family that was supposed to kill me, because you had a purpose and a plan for me. Could it be that if Moses would have never did what he did and found himself in a wilderness place where now he had a chance to detox and to release all the things that he had carried while he was in Pharaoh's house, but now he's in a place where he's with God? What if Moses said, God, I can't do it. I won't do it. Because how many people did he had to take out of Egypt to cross over to the other side?
Yeah.
And it was because he showed up, because he took a deep breath, because he stood up from what they called him a murderer. He stood up from that, saying, God, now what do you call me? What do I tell the people? Because all they're going to see is my brokenness. All they're going to remember is I was the one that killed the Egyptian. And so they're going to be looking at me side-eye. God, what do I do? He said, all I want you to do is what's in your hand. I want you to move. I want you to go back to the place, because many times when stepping back into that place, there's a newness even in the old. And you know, when I left Danville, Virginia, I said I would never go back to Danville because it had too much pain and too much brokenness. But when I got into a place where the army, where the job fired me, and I had no other place to go, I went back to my Egypt. But I didn't understand that I was no longer going back as the murderer. I was not longer going back as the victim. I was no longer going back as that broken little girl that was dealing with molestation. What I went back to was a woman that had been called by God. And there's somebody else that was in Danville that I needed to speak to. There were some people that I had to let know that we can make it over to the other side. So even though I left there a victim, I came back victorious. And I made up in my mind that if I had allowed my now at that time, I would have never stepped into my next. And so though it was painful, though I didn't understand it, though I didn't really want to do it, I still moved. And did it cause me pain? It did. Did I cry? I did. Did I understand it? I did not. But what I understood is that because of that, God stepped me into becoming a minister. Bridging the gap was birthed out of me going back to Egypt. Because now I understand that there's so much greater. And this, we even talking about how big this is, but it's greater than even this. So just imagine the greatness that God has for you in your next. That's only like a little small portion of what it is to God. And so, Pastor Brandon, I see the smoke coming out of your ears. So go ahead and release what the Lord is laying on your heart.
Sometimes you do have to, like you said, you have to go back.
Mm.
And there are maybe someone or somebody's persons on that are watching, and you're conflicted about, should I return back to where I was? Now this is not for everyone. And you're wrestling with this, and you've been wrestling with this for a few months. Sometimes going back is a restart for your new.
Mm.
I said I would never return back to my home city. I was not going back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care because there's nothing there. People are stagnated. They're okay with being stagnated. And I'm the type of person, I like to keep moving. I don't like to um, be in the same spot all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it was good for me that I did, because when I went back, my parents started having some medical issues, some health
Mm-hmm.
problems, and I was able to come back and assist them. I do what I can do. But what I'm saying is, sometimes returning to where you were victimized,
Hmm.
coming back as a conqueror,
Hmm.
sometimes that's what's going to shut a lot of people's mouths.
Oh, my God.
And it wasn't because you failed at where you were, but it's because God took you back for a reason.
For a reason.
Jacob wrestled because it wasn't the fact that he was just wandering around. His
Mm-hmm.
brother wanted to see him.
Mm-hmm.
You know the story. It was a whole feud going on.
Right.
But as he was returning to his brother, he met the strong man, Angel.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrestled with him because he says, in other words, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. In other words, I'm not going to let you go until you change my identity. So when I go back, I'm not going to be that same person that they knew.
Right.
So his name changed. And whenever your name changes, your whole DNA changes.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to realize, a lot of times when you're going through stuff and you're in a situation, God, like, you need to go back. No, I ain't going back. That's the devil. A lot of times it's not the devil. It's a point that needs to be proven.
Mm-hmm.
You have to listen carefully. And I'm talking to the ones that's been. This is an issue in your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
God's telling you, well, you need to go back to that ministry. I ain't going back over there because they did me wrong. This and the third. It may not have been that they did you wrong. It's the fact that you didn't know how to discipline yourself.
Come on.
It's you accountable. And your character is still a little not where it needs to be. So you need to go back and learn how to be more accountable. So let's learn to continue to hear God. And you got to understand, with your next comes benefits. Abram, before he was Abraham, God said, get away from your kinsmen, the house, everything you know. And
Mm-hmm.
when you do this, I'm going to make you a father of many nations.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be blessed beyond your means. I'm going to cause those that hurt you, I'm going to avenge, and I'm going to cause them to bless you.
Right.
So why are you still trying to figure it out? God said, if you just move, I have everything in order for you. So the question is, do you want to keep staying in lack, or more than enough? It's good to say I want more than enough, but don't do nothing. That's a problem with a lot of us. We want God to do stuff and we ask him for stuff, but we don't want to do our part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like Moses had to stretch out the rod in order for the water to part.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. We have a responsibility. God is sovereign, but we as humanity have our responsibility. Jesus had to come from being divinity
Mm-hmm.
to human because something had to be done in order to activate what needed to be done in heaven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We were made to be activators. So while you complaining about that job, God is wanting you to stand up to activate heaven in that place.
Mm-hmm.
While you're complaining about this
That's
relationship, all this stuff
it.
that's going on around you, God is waiting for you to activate heaven in that place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
And when you was talking about Moses, when we read in the story, God said, "Why are you praying to me? Take the people to the other side."
Right.
And I could only imagine Moses standing there looking at this Red Sea saying, "God, what do you mean just go over to the other side? What do you have in your hand? What has God placed in your heart? What has God placed in your mouth that you're supposed to release, but you're holding on to it because I'm not a preacher. I don't have a minister's license. I don't have a pulpit to preach it from. But yet now Pharaoh's army is almost to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't parted the Red Sea because you have not trusted me enough to know that I will blow upon the ocean. I will blow upon every sea, and you will be able to get over on dry land when you trust and believe me.
Right.
But many times we get caught up because we don't move forward. We stay stuck, and everything that's chasing us down overtakes us because we're not in a place of momentum. We're not in a place of moving. We're not in a place of taking over territory. There can be only, and able for we always telling God, God, enlarge my territory.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, but you ain't moved nowhere. What territory? How am I going to enlarge it if you're never going to step into the enlargement? If you're never going to move into what I'm telling you to move into, and we've been so preoccupied of what people say and what people think that we never step into the fullness of our next. And if we do step into our next, we're now straddling because we don't really want to let our other foot come out of the now. We don't want to let go of that part to say, God, I'm fully showing up. I'm fully going to embrace. I'm fully going to look forward. I'm not going to look back. But we're going to be like, we find ourselves like Lot's wife.
Yeah.
Wait, I was broken. Let me look back. Because I know some people that I used to sit around the market with. We all used to do the same thing. So I'm going to look back because I don't think I'm worthy enough to be able to go to the hills. I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to not die with everybody else that's dying in that sin and dying in that mess. I don't feel worthy enough. And so for those of you that are stuck because you don't feel worthy enough, you keep looking back because you don't think that God can use you because of what I did, what I said, who I slept with, who I laid down with, the things that I did in my past. I don't feel worthy enough to step into this newness that you're calling me, but I'm going to keep looking back to now I'm going to become salty. I'm going to become salty because the same thing that you told me to do, I now see on social media somebody else is doing it. The same word that you gave to me, I now hear somebody else speaking that word. So because I continue to look back, now I'm salty. Because I'm not stepping into the fullness of what God is saying. I didn't leave with my family and go up to the mountaintop. I didn't go where God is sending me because I'm too busy looking back.
Yes.
And so enable for you to move into your now, to move from your now into your next. Acknowledge what you're dealing with. Acknowledge the pain. Acknowledge the brokenness. Acknowledge the thing that has you stuck. Even acknowledge the fact, God, I'm stuck only because I choose not to even move forward. I would rather march in place than to take a step forward. Acknowledge it
Yeah. Yeah.
and then embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace the newness. Embrace what God is telling you in this season. Embrace the fact that I'm no longer that broken person. I'm no longer that wretch undone. I'm no longer what my mama said that I was going to be. Now I'm walking in that newness. And then release. Release the pain of your past. Release the things that held you back. Release the unforgiveness. Release the bitterness so that you can step into your next because God has need of you. What if Moses would not have went back? Those millions of people would still be stuck there as a slave, building up somebody else's land when they had a
Mm.
promised land that God had just for them.
Wow.
We don't want to be stuck in somebody else's land, building somebody else's land, tilling somebody else's land, when God has already prepared a place where we can have our own land to till. We have our own promises God has given us. We have our newness. So today, make a choice that I'm no longer going to be this victim, but I'm going to be victorious in the newness that God is calling me. And Pastor Brandon, you guys, I know we went over, but I did not want to cut off the spirit because there was a word for someone. Pastor Brandon, is there anything else that the Lord has laid on your heart to tell the ones watching or those who will watch the replay?
Yes, this one short thing. You have to remember that your past is chasing you. But David says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow
Mm,
me all the days of my life. And if you look in the Hebrew, follow means to chase.
mm,
So while your past and your mistakes are chasing you, know goodness and mercy
Jesus.
chasing you too. Now, which one are you going to allow yourself to be caught by?
Come on.
There you go.
My God, my God. So, you all, this has been an amazing series. Oh, God in Your Heart has been an amazing series. And so, we have one more Thursday in this month, and we're going to close the series out. But what I want you all to remember that there's nothing that's from your past. There's nothing even now
Yes.
that you are dealing with now because your now may not look the way you want it to look. Your now may not feel the way that you want it to feel. But we need you to now embrace that now.
Mhm.
Ask God, God, what are you teaching me in this season?
Mhm.
What lessons am I to learn now? When I'm going through this uncomfortable situation, when I know that you've called me to move, but I can't find the momentum to move, God, help me to get into a better place because your next, when you get to that next, you're going to look back and realize that your now was a preparation for you to now step into that next. And guess what? When you get to the next, that next is going to now be your now. So you're going to be always moving, always going forward. So just trust God. And remember, sometimes we have to remember what He's brought us out from so that we understand that He can take us to. Because if He brought us out of something before, then He can bring us out of something else again. So I love each and every one of you. Thank you so, so much for being on Bridging the Gap. And I am looking forward to you all next week. Remember, if when you know better, you do better. We are going to do better because God is calling the remnant to step into the fullness. So I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much, Pastor Brandon, for being on Bridging the Gap, and thank you everyone for watching. Put in the comments what this series is doing for you. Send up the likes, send up the hearts. I know we're finished, but go ahead and put in the comments what you learned from tonight
Yeah.
so that we can all move in because when you put down, you may be something you picked up that I didn't get.
Yeah.
But because you have typed it now, I understand, oh, I didn't even catch that part. I didn't think about that. So again, I love each and every one of you. Until next week, You all have a blessed night. It's 3:24 a.m. here for me, but I am so amazed at what God is doing because I am not even tired. I'm like, whoo, what's next? So I love each and every one of you. I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.